This is my one call close masterclass. If you've struggled in the house closing deals in the first visit, whether it's storm or retail, this is for you. If you've become a follow-up king like I was when I got started, this is for you. And if you're tired of having a second sit and all your appointments just dragging on in the sales process, just feeling like it's continually extending, especially right now as homeowners are price shopping more than ever before, then this 1 hour masterclass is exactly what you've been looking for. Listen, this is a training I filmed a couple years ago. I did not want to put it on YouTube. I actually felt like it was too valuable, but I'm pushing myself and I'm sharing it with you. So what I ask of you is simply pay attention, watch it all the way through, use it. It's going to help you start closing even more sales in the first visit, and share this one with the team. Thanks for being here. Adam Bensman, welcome or welcome back. Now let's rock and roll.
Close on the first visit. What I'm going to teach you to do is close on the first visit without high pressure, without being salesy, and without being aggressive. So why do we want a one-call close? First, when you leave the house, the chance of closing the sale drops. And I'm going to repeat that. When you leave the house, the chance of you closing the sale reduces. And I want you to think of this just like you would online shopping. Imagine going to any other website, any basic website, okay? You have to click add to cart on the item that you want, and then it goes into your cart. And then you have to click the checkout button. And then you have to type in the shipping address. And then you have to type in what? The billing address. Then you have to type in your credit card. Then you have to review the order and click buy. So with each one of those steps, there's what's called attrition. There's drop off. People second guess it. They get sidetracked. Something else came up. They found another product. But what does Amazon do? By the way, which has a very healthy budget, as I think everyone on this call probably has an Amazon Prime membership, you have the option to do the one-click buy. So it reduces the steps and reduces the friction to allow the metaphorical equivalent of a one-call close where you can just say click and it shows up. So, and put a 1 in the chat if you've had this happen. Have you had Amazon packages show up and you forgot what you ordered? Put a 1 in the chat if that's happened. By the way, this happens to me on the regular. I order things, I have no idea what I ordered. Okay. That is because of low friction. And our job is to provide that buyer's experience to our homeowners. Now, put a 1 in the, let's do this. If you have ever been mad about that, just put the number 3. Okay. If you've ever been mad, like, oh, I shouldn't have ordered this. Like, for most of us, I'm going to guess, and I'll wait, that there's not going to be a lot of 3s, if any, that come in the chat because we get what we want, which is why I say that homeowners deserve the opportunity to make a decision on the first visit. All right. So I'll give you an example. I had some concrete work done in my home. And if I have 3 people come out, we ended up pouring a new patio. We had to match some texture to another patio that was there. And the classic contractor shows up, says he needs to come on visit 1. And then he's got to measure everything. And then he's got to go back to his office and he says he'll get me the estimate that night, but he's a contractor. So do you think it happened? No, it was 7 days. And I had to remind him. I said, hey, remember that time I called you because I wanted to give you thousands of dollars. And then you said you'd do something and then you didn't. And I had to follow up with you to give me the thing that would help me make a decision to give you thousands of dollars, you freaking idiot. So the fastest path to yes is when someone calls with a question, which is what does my roof cost? Or can you help me solve my problem? We need to give them everything that they need to make that decision now versus them going out, I'm going to measure everything. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my office to prepare the estimate. And then I'm going to come back again and sit down and go through it with you. All right. You will watch your close rate drop. People, less visits equal more sales. That's why we want a one-call close. All right. Now, sales people struggle because they don't understand the buying process. Now, I want you to stay focused here when I say buying, not selling, the buying process. They don't know how to one-call close and they're afraid of being pushy. Okay. So here's a little roadmap of what we're about to cover. Step 1 is understanding the psychology of the buying process formula. Step 2 is the one-call close process. I'm going to break it down step by step. Now, a little disclaimer, because we're squeezing this into 1 hour and we could probably do a training for 2 full days on this, I'm going to be covering the key parts of the sales process for a one-call close. I'm not going to be going through every single step, but I'm going to give you the roadmap of the high-level things that most of you are likely going to either need to adjust or enhance. And the number 3 is how to close without being pushy. All right, let's begin. Step 1. The buying process formula. This is going to be repetition for some, new for others. There's 3 elements: trust, need, and money. This is what I call 3 domino selling. Okay. 3 domino selling. These are the 3 dominoes that we must knock down in order to get the sale. First, we need to develop trust, an unshakable level of trust. that homeowners have in our ability or your ability to solve their problem. This is different than liking. You know, people say people buy from people they know, like, and trust. Well, guess what? Liking is not nearly as important as trust. Why? Do you guys have a friend that you really like, but you wouldn't trust to watch your dog? Yeah, we have that friend. But if we were to, again, choose, let's say, a brain surgeon, do we choose the brain surgeon that just graduated, hasn't done one yet on his own, but you really like him because he also came from roofing sales and he also loves golfing and four-wheeling? Or do you choose the guy that you don't really like as much, but he has been practicing for 20 years and teaches at the university for how to do brain surgery? Which person do you hire? The answer is clear. You answer the person who has the competence to do the job, which is why trust is more important than liking. Next, need. There's two elements of need: someone that needs a new roof or they need you to do it. So there's a need for the service and need for the service provider. Again, people buy things that they want or need, and there's no one, I say no one, but there might be like 1 in a million. No one wants to spend money on a roof. Would you guys agree? People aren't like, oh man, I just got a bonus from work. I made 20 grand. I can't wait to buy a roof. Like, no, I'm going to blow it on anything. The roof isn't even in the top 50 list. So people delay until the need is strong enough to take action today. And the final piece is when the money makes sense. So objectively, you failed to create a need if the homeowner says things like, we're going to wait, the damage doesn't look like it's that bad, or we're going to proceed with the repair instead of the replacement, okay? You failed to win the business by creating a strong enough need for you to do it if they said, we liked everything, but we chose someone else. And if you didn't make the money make sense, you won't win the business. And this gets into a bit of a, making the money make sense is counterintuitive, which is why if you go to buy a used vehicle that's $20,000, when you finance it, your monthly payment will likely be higher than if you buy a brand new vehicle at $30,000. Why? Because financing options on newer vehicles are lower than used, which is why new car sales trump used car sales. But it is counterintuitive to spend 50% more. By the way, this just happened to someone in my family that went car shopping with a $20,000 budget, spent all of their time and research on a $20,000 vehicle till they sat down at financing, ended up spending 50% more buying a $30,000 vehicle because the monthly payment was less. All right, let's get into our roadmap. So we're going to break this into two separate sections, okay? The first is the appointment. This is the one call close roadmap. We're going to get into closing in a second section. So this is what you're about to witness. The appointment warm up, the discovery process, proactive objection handling, price conditioning, and a trial close, okay? Now, what I really want to emphasize as we get into this roadmap is that one call closing is not a magic trick. I'm going to repeat that. One call closing is not a magic trick. It is a series of a lot of strategic conversations, questions, and strategies that start before the appointment. And I'm going to repeat that part. These start before the appointment. I understand that many of us are self-generating leads. Those are an exception to the rule. But if you have a lead or an inbound appointment, an inbound lead with a set appointment, this should start before the appointment, okay? So there's no magic trick. That's why we're going through this from the very beginning. So let's talk about the appointment warm-up. As an RSRA member, you have resources at your disposal. When you go to rsra.org, you can click on the resources tab. I personally wrote this guide. It's called Don't Hire a Roofing and Solar Contractor Till You Read This. Sniff Out the Scum, the Insider's Guide to Choosing the Right Roofing and Solar Contractor. Inside this guide, and by the way, you're going to get a link to this PDF. This is a training on how to use it. I'm going to pop this open in a new tab. I'm just going to drop it in the chat really quickly so you guys can bookmark this for later. And we're going to get back to our presentation. Now, in this guide, what will happen is the homeowner is going to go to this guide. When you say, hey, before I show up, it is important that you read this. Why? Because when they go to RSRA's website, we are the ones doing the selling for you. Now, there's a story that some of you have heard and some may have not, that largely inspired the positioning of RSRA. And here's what happened. There was a real estate agent in Indianapolis, one of the best in the area, who used to answer his own phone. And like many of us, we say we're better, we're different. Better service, better product, better warranty. Would you guys agree that many of us are saying that in the house? Probably all of us, right? Yeah, we have better product, better service, better warranty. Well, I have sad news. So is every other contractor. So if everyone has a better product, better service, and better warranty, then who's the best? Oh, that's right. No one, because everyone's saying the exact same thing. So what this realtor did is, instead of saying I'm the best, better, blah, 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 he had his administrative assistant or office administrator answer the phone and say, hey, I'm going to connect you with Adam. He's the best real estate agent in Indianapolis. He's been practicing for 20 years. He sold more homes than almost anyone out here. And he's going to take great care of you and make sure you get exactly what you deserve for your house sale. Let me connect you. And just by way of that third-party introduction, the real estate agent's close rate increased by 70%. Okay, just by way of third-party introduction. So that is why at the annual event, you'll see it says new sales tools are revealed. By the way, it's going to be open to everybody. I'm just unveiling these at the annual event. We have built presentation tools that are going to be used every single day for every salesperson here, whether you're knocking doors or have self-generated leads, that are going to help facilitate this process for you. Okay, so I'll be unveiling those at the event. In the meantime, in the chat, you have the link to this training. You get the homeowner, go through it. You're going to have the credibility of RSRA. And inside this guide, the homeowner is doing what Marcus Sheridan has called assignment selling, where we are proactively addressing their biggest questions and concerns. Why are other people doing it cheaper? Why did someone say they could eat my deductible? What are the red flags of what a contractor promises you? And it is all real world stuff. And as each one of you read this, you're going to see this is not sales BS. This is actual education. So that's, again, the appointment warm-up. This happens before the appointment using assignment selling. You have a homework assignment. By the way, I learned this technique from Marcus Sheridan. Marcus Sheridan wrote the book, They Ask You Answer. I had an opportunity to meet him at the roofing process conference like 3 years ago. The dude changed my life. And in their pool business, what they found, which was very interesting, is that the people that with the highest close rate, because they were selling in-ground pools, read 60 plus pages on their website. Yes, you heard me right. 60 plus pages, and they will not meet with the homeowner until they read the guide that they sent them. Why? Because they find that when the homeowner is educated, the closing rate is much higher and they're prepared to make a decision. Okay. All right. Next is the discovery questions. Now, this is where the rubber starts meeting the road and where many salespeople are going wrong. Now, I got to do a shout out to a few people today. One, Jason Dom. Jason, thank you. I know you shared your discovery questions, or many of them, inside the app, inside our community. And I added a couple in here that weren't, I don't remember if they were on your list. I don't think they were. So I just want to do a shout out on a couple of these. Okay. First question. What's the problem with your roof? What's the problem with your roof? Now, there are people that say, and by the way, this is for a set appointment. If you show up at someone's house, if you're door knocking for storm damage and the homeowner isn't aware of damage, you can't say, what's the problem with your roof? Because they're going to say none. Your job's to help them identify the fact that they have a problem. But on an appointment, if someone calls you, okay, 80%, and I repeat, 80% of that buying decision has been made by the time they picked up the phone and called you. They've already vetted. They're likely getting 3 estimates. They have a pre-authorized check for $25,000. They got to figure out whose name to sign on it. Okay. They know there's a problem. Now, when we say, what's the problem with your roof? If there's not, they're going to say it. They're going to say something like, hey, we just need to get an estimate because we know we got to replace our roof in 5 years. Or they're going to say something like, hey, we're selling our house. We need to get a new roof on it. Okay. They're going to say something like, you know what, we're doing a remodel. There's no problem with our house, but we want our roof to match as we do an addition. So our job is to identify what that problem is versus, hey, we need a new roof because our insurance company said they were going to drop us. Hey, we need a new roof because we have a leak. Hey, we need a new roof because I realized that we have shingles that have blown off and are missing. All right. So asking them a very direct question, what's the problem with the roof? They say there's no problem. It's very fair to you say, then what the heck am I doing here? Okay. By the way, this is also to start creating urgency. Urgency is people's need to replace something sooner. So are you going to have a higher imagine you sell tires, okay? And imagine that you live in an area that snows and you've been running on your tires to bare threads, and you live in the mountains and you're supposed to get your first snowstorm of the season. Are you more likely to get your new tires now or wait? Now, which is why when you go to the tire shop in Colorado right before the first snow, it is a zoo. That is urgency. We have to create that type of urgency with our homeowners. Mike says, I love this concept. An educated client is a higher close rate. And homework required prior to retail appointment. What is the most effective way to actually accomplish this? Mike, the actual way is to make it easy. And this is what I've done for you, but I'm going to give you the concept now. And you'll have all these tools that I'm sharing with you are going to be revealed at the event. Communicate this in text and email. Give them one thing to do. Give a link to that resource guide. Read this before your appointment. Remind them till you're blue in the face. I would rather have some people be upset and say, I already read it, than not at all. And I will tell you from my experience, when you have appointment reminders that start to upset people, that's the sweet spot. When you dial back because someone was upset, you will watch either close rates or show rates suffer. So when it starts to bother people, it means that you're bothering the person that listens to directions, but the other 96% of people are getting exactly what they need. Okay. So that's the best way to communicate it. You can also have the salesperson, if you have an inside sales team, what Marcus Sheridan does is he calls the homeowner and says, did you read that guide? And if they said not yet, he says, great, then we're going to reschedule your appointment so you can get to it. That's how important it is for them. So your inside sales can call, your sales people can call. If you're an individual sales rep on this call, you can text them this, say, hey, read this before the appointment, and then you can call to follow up. Okay, next question. Where are you at in the process? Or how many estimates have you received? Again, some people say this is invasive. No, it's not. You're there to help them make a decision, okay? One thing I didn't include in this deck, and it was just due to simplifying it, is our mission and purpose that we state at the very beginning. And if you guys haven't heard me, I've been drilling this pretty hard in our sessions. To state your mission and purpose of three things is, Mr. Homeowner, it's to understand your roof and your needs. Number two is to show you your options. And number three is to help you make a decision if it's not with me. So to get started, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Now, the reason I'm asking this question of how many estimates you received is I shared with you that my job is to help you make a decision, even if it's not with me. It's important if I know if I'm the first person you're talking to or the third person you're talking to or the 17th person I'm talking to. Next is a question that most people don't ask. How will you decide which contractor to choose? This is a very fair question. How will you decide? Here's an alternate way to ask, what is your decision-making process? Now, imagine you're going out to buy a new vehicle. When I'm out, I absolutely hate high-pressure sales tactics. I just purchased a new vehicle, well, used, but new vehicle purchase. You get the idea. Same process, right? And the guy I ended up working with made it fun. It wasn't high pressure at all. The other guy was using these totally gimmicky tie downs. He's like, well, I need your word. If I can get to this price, I just need your word that you're going to buy it from me. And I'm like, no, I just need to know if I'm even going to consider it because I'm looking at other things, right? He didn't talk to me about my decision-making process. Most people have to talk with their spouse, right? So why would I wait till the end when the homeowner says, oh, I got to talk with my spouse about it to try to dig out of that hole? If in the beginning I say, well, how will you guys make a decision? Which they're likely going to say, we're going to get a few estimates. We're going to review together. We'll talk about it. So when I know that, I can now address that at the end and squash that objection because I had that information early. Okay. It's a very fair question. And you can even qualify. I just want to make sure that the information I'm giving you fits with how you're going to make a decision, which is very fair and what we all should be doing. Next is, would you like to take advantage of our affordable financing options? Most people are bringing this up at the end or not at all. And I want to drill it hard. You have to ask early. This is something you're going to see. I know I'm contradicting myself in the closing strategy. That's getting updated because I feel very strongly about doing it this way. When you ask early, if no one else did, and you say, hey, would you like to take advantage of our affordable financing options? They may not have known that you have financing. And if I got 3 other bids and they're expecting to pay cash, now we know, hey, this could be a deal winner for us. There's other questions that can be asked. You can turn to Jason Dom's post in the community. But I will say that I believe of all of them, these are the most important ones to ask that will lead us to a one-call close. So now what we're going to do, we've asked our questions, we've gone up on the roof, we've got our estimate prepared. Before we share the estimate, we need to do proactive objection handling, and this is all price related, okay? So I repeat, this is done before we go through the estimate. and take note of the things in quotes. These are the key talking points. Mr. Homeowner, before I share our estimate with you, I want you to know that you can and you should choose anyone that you like and trust to do your roof. And then I qualify it. And here's why. Because most homeowners think that estimates are apples to apples, right? A roof comes off, a roof goes on, a roof is a roof as a roof. And if you're like most homeowners, you're going to get an estimate and you're going to just scroll down and what's the most important thing, right? It's what is this roof going to cost me? So I'm going to compare this cost versus that cost, and that's going to weigh into my decision, paired with, how did I like the people that showed up? But the reality is that roofing estimates are far more like apples to bananas. And sadly, I'd go so far as to say even apples to French fries. One's a health food, one's not. And the reason for that is that contractors will often prey upon homeowners saying, hey, we know that they're going to be making a decision based on one thing. So what I ask you, Mr. Homeowner, is, and by the way, I'm going to interrupt myself for a teaching moment, is to ask them the questions that they can't answer. I have gone through this so many times and I still see salespeople that resist doing it. And I'm going to explain why it is so important. When we ask questions they can't answer, it creates what's known as a knowledge gap. Okay. If you looked on YouTube, Nathan, who's a member of RSRA, he's the gentleman that went from struggling against "you're too expensive" to selling nearly $1 million in a month. By the way, it was like $738,000 in a month. That was signed with a check. So a deposit check, official contract. If you count signed, but not a deposit yet, it was in the 900,000 range. So nearly $1 million in 1 month. When I interviewed Nathan, he said his biggest breakthrough was doing this, creating a knowledge gap. So as an example, put a 1 in the chat if you've had this experience. When I'm watching a movie, I cannot help but predict how it ends. Put a 1 in the chat if you can relate to that. I know I can't finish anything. Okay. Now, the reason that we do this is it's a human phenomenon that humans by nature, if there's inconclusive evidence, we draw our own conclusion. We cannot handle tension. So we make shit up. Excuse me for cursing. I only curse when I'm trying to emphasize a point. Okay. We make it up. So what happens is our homeowners have made up their narrative that all roofers are scumbags. All roofers are out to take me. All that I need to know, give me your price. I don't want to meet with you because a roof is a roof is a roof. So the only way in a movie, going back to the movie analogy, where we begin to question whether or not we were right is when something happens that breaks our prediction. That is the knowledge gap. That is why movies, the most addictive movies to watch that keep you on the edge of your seat, something happens and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. And you have to watch because you don't know, like your prediction has been ruined. And now you were proven wrong. Our job is to do that with homeowners. But guess what? You cannot do it by telling them they're wrong. You cannot do it by telling them they're stupid. You cannot do it by educating them. You have to do it by asking questions. When we ask questions they can't answer, it creates the knowledge gap so they pay attention. Example, Mr. Homeowner, as I was sharing before, shifting back into role play mode, other estimates, roofing estimates are often apples to bananas. So I know you mentioned that you've received other estimates. Did the other contractor explain what grade of shingle they're using? Did they explain what type of ridge cap they're using? By the way, you might get a yes to the shingle. You might get a yes to a ridge cap, but probably not. Did they explain what type of underlayment they're using? Is it 15-pound, 30-pound felt or synthetic underlayment? And by the way, when they get uncomfortable, this is great. Keep asking. Screenshot this. By the way, you'll get the this whole deck in the replay. Okay. Excuse me. Are they using ice and water shield, or for my Florida friends, peel and stick in the valleys, or W metal, or both? Okay. What type of pipe jack flashings are they using? Neoprene or lead? And are they reusing or replacing the step and roof to wall flashing? And what about the gutter apron and rake edge metal? And did they give you a choice of color on the rake edge metal? And when you ask this, what's the homeowner beginning to think about the other contractors? Do you think it's going to help build trust or kill trust? It's going to kill it, right? They're going to start doubting the other people. We can sprinkle in some education here and there, example, are they reusing or replacing the step and roof to wall flashing? There's a time where we may need to reuse it based on building materials, like if it's stuck under stucco or something, but there's times that it can be replaced. And when we say, hey, you know, your house is 30 years old and they're about to put a roof on that's supposed to last you 30 years and they're going to reuse 30-year-old material. So again, getting back on this, ask the questions that they cannot answer. This requires patience. And I'm going to just warn you right now. Newer sales reps are going to get 1 or 2 no's, and then they're going to get uncomfortable and move on. Oh, it's okay. And they're going to try to make them feel better. Do not do that. Your job is not to be their mommy. Your job is to provide the education they need to make a smart decision. Because put a 1 in the chat if you've received a phone call from a homeowner who chose a different contractor because you had to clean up their mess. Put a 1 in the chat if that's happened to you, 2 if it hasn't yet. I know for me it has. And I'm very protective of the people I serve. So, by the way, those stories are powerful to share in the process. Okay. And you can explain that. Say, Mr. Homeowner, I know these questions might be uncomfortable, but the reason I'm asking this is I've gotten phone calls from people that chose the cheaper estimate. Don't make it generic. Tell the specifics of the story of what happened. All right, moving on. Now, Mr. Homeowner, sadly, this is how contractors dupe homeowners, is they are preying upon the fact, by the way, the reason I use the word dupe is when I say this is how roofers dupe homeowners, people naturally want to defend themselves saying, well, I'm too smart to get duped. I would never do that. Okay, so this is a little psychology at play. Okay, I'm not going to call it a trick. It is psychology at play. All right. That's a reason, same thing in marketing. There's a reason that smart homeowners are taking advantage of solar right now, right? People want to be like, well, I'm smart too. I'll go solar. So, Mr. Homeowner, this is how roofers dupe homeowners, is they prey upon them to say, guess what? We're going to appear to be a better value. But what ends up happening is we make on-the-fly decisions on the products that we use, the products we purchase, and what gets reused on the roof so we can make up for that seemingly cheaper price. In other words, you get what you pay for. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree with that statement, that the contractors that sell this way have no accountability and they make up what they want. Put a 2 if you disagree. Okay. I believe that to be fact because they'll say, hey, well, all the homeowner sees is the shingles. So as long as the shingles look like what I showed them, I'm going to use the cheapest underlayment. I'm going to use the cheapest accessories, and I'm going to reuse everything I possibly can on that roof. And I'm not going to communicate with them. I'm not even going to give them choice of color. I'm just going to do my best to match the edge metal, right? So then I can ask further questions. There's 2 more, and then we're going to continue. Mr. Homeowner, so imagine this was your kitchen. By the way, the reason I bring this into the kitchen is the kitchen is often more emotional than the roof, okay? Mr. Homeowner, imagine this was a kitchen remodel. Would you be comfortable writing a $20,000 check without knowing what you're even getting, and without having any legal recourse, and without having any accountability? Which is the truth. By the way, you can't get sued for doing what you say you're going to do. Okay? You can't. But what happens is if they end up getting a shoddy roof and then they go to court, as long as it's not code items, the judge is going to be like, well, it wasn't on the contract. It's not in writing. Are you comfortable writing a $20,000 check without any accountability? Okay. Next, Mr. Homeowner, speaking of a kitchen remodel, would you write a $20,000 check for a kitchen remodel if you had no idea what kind of cabinets and countertops you'd be getting? The answer is going to be no, I wouldn't. And now that's basically what you're doing, just happens to be with your roof. Now, at this point, we are differentiating ourselves. Remember, we just did all of this before we presented. And now, Mr. Homeowner, I'd like to walk you through our estimate. Okay. All right. I want to move on to price conditioning. For those who are unfamiliar, which is okay, because I know we have a wide breadth of knowledge and experience in this room. Price conditioning is getting people comfortable with what they're about to see. I'll give you an example. We've all heard this, the first time home buyer has $1 million taste on a $250,000 budget, right? So price conditioning is setting realistic expectations. So a real estate agent has to do some price conditioning to be like, hey, what you told me you want and what you told me you can afford are very different. All right. Which is also why when you go shopping for vehicles, you already know roughly the range. You're not going to walk into a dealership, be like, oh, I wanted a new truck and they start at 60,000. Holy crap, I can only afford 20. It's like, no, you had to have known that going in because you were conditioned to know what to expect. So what we need to do is condition the homeowner of what they're going to expect. So when we reveal our final investment or price, they don't poop their pants with fear. They're like, whoa, a roof is $20,000. I didn't expect that. So we want to warm them up. Okay. So here's a few tips on price conditioning. If you're not doing this already, start. Example. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, the average price of a roof in Colorado is about $20,000. For the size of your roof, you can expect estimates to range from, I'd say 16,000 up to about 25,000. But word of warning, as I explained earlier, estimates are not always the same. Generally speaking, the folks on the lower end are using those predatory practices to dupe you, and those on the higher end are simply trying to take you. Okay. And you may or may not need to use that language depending on where your pricing lines up. Again, pulling from the auto industry as well. If you guys are on, if you're ever looking at a used vehicle, for example, on cars.com or Auto Trader, you'll notice that Kelley Blue Book has a meter and it says like low range, high range. And then it will even say, this is a good deal. This is a fair deal. This is in line with what's fair, or it's low. And that right away provides price conditioning to know if it's in line. So without even thinking, and I'm trained on this stuff, I'm going through there the other day and I'm like, oh, that vehicle's high. I just wiped it out. It's too much. They just told me in the price, they were price conditioning me and said it's on the high end. I'm like, well, why would I overpay for that one? So I'm looking for the ones that are in the fair range because they already provided that price conditioning on that research. Okay. Now, moving to the next thing. What about trial closes? Education first, and I'll give you a trial close. Trial close is like testing the waters before going in for a first kiss. Okay. So if you can remember your first kiss, you're like, you don't just go for it. You like lean in, you lock eyes maybe, and you're testing the waters, right? You're like, it's that trial close. Is he or she going to meet me, or am I going to get the head turned? Oh, there's nothing worse than the head turn and landing one on the cheek, right? So that's the trial close versus just like going after it. And typically it's used immediately before talking price, your price. Okay. The goal is to draw out all the objections and get a commitment. So it'll go something like this. Hey, Mr. Homeowner, now that we've gone through everything and what our estimate looks like, if the investment makes sense, is there any reason you wouldn't want to move forward with us? Okay. I repeat that. If the investment makes sense, so I'm isolating the money. Okay. Is there any reason you wouldn't want to move forward with us? So money aside, is there any issue? This will reveal any objections they have. If they say no, then we're ready to rock. If they say yes, we need to address those objections before we go further. When I got an ATV, this was years ago. I'll never forget. The sales manager comes over because you're at final negotiation and the salespeople in that world, motorsports, can't really negotiate. He comes over, he's like, before we start talking about the price for this thing, you've done all your research on all the other brands and models, and you're sure that this Polaris General is the ATV you want? Yes. And you're sure that you want this trim, the ultimate, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Okay. And it was like all of the it was trial close brand, trial close model, trial close everything. And I was like, damn, he's good. It's funny. I actually just sold it back to them this weekend. But anyway, besides the point. So that's your trial close, is to isolate the objection. Okay. Now, step 3 is how to close without being pushy. We need to present price. This is where people screwed up big time. This small adjustment I'm about to show you can make a significant difference on your closing rate. Next, we'll get into asking for the business, isolating the objections, and then an inside sales follow-up is a little bonus. All right, presenting the price. Mr. Homeowner, now that we've gone through everything, I shared with you that the range will be from $18,000 to $25,000 on your roof. Your roof is $20,000. We'll let this settle in. And the reason I'm presenting this first is this is going to act as our price anchor. For those who are unfamiliar, that's a word you should know. Price anchor means that is the number that was shown to me first that I will measure all other numbers against. So for example, if I said, and I'm using a good, better, best system, and I said, your roof is $20,000 and you're at good and you're doing good, better, best wrong, which by the way, I know it's a strong statement, but I mean it. If you show your good price, then you're better than your best, it will kill your close rate in a terrible way, because the homeowner is going to say, holy crap, 20 grand's too much. And you're like, but wait, there's more. The better option is 23,000 and the best option is 27. You're like, but you were already too expensive at 20. So the price anchoring is the reference point. Okay. Which is why at restaurants, higher end restaurants, you will usually see a couple of menu items that are absurdly expensive. It's that tin of caviar that's $300 or $175. It's the lobster, the surf and turf, or the steak on the menu, which is why at those places, a $23 burger seems like a bargain when it's compared to a $75 steak. Where normally, if you go to a restaurant, you're like a $23 burger. What the hell is this thing gold plated? Like, it's ridiculous. Okay. So that tool has been put there by design. So your reference point is the most expensive thing, making everything else look like a bargain. All right. I'm gonna turn back to that question in a minute in the chat. I want to get through this in one fell swoop. So your roof is $20,000. Then I'm going to share the next thing. Or we can get you in at somewhere between, this is an estimate, $212 to $292 per month, based on approval, and that's over 120 months. There's a general range roughly that we could get you at. Now I just went from $20,000 to 200 and some thousand, or excuse me, 200 and some dollars. If you guys aren't in a position to show pricing, you can just say, or I can get you in at over a low monthly payment spread over 120 months, or whatever financing option you're presenting to the homeowner. Okay. And then we're going to minimize it one more time, or 0 down, 0 payments for 12 months. I can get this down today and you don't owe me a penny. Break it down, break it down, break it down. This is how you win the deal, because if the next guy is offering a roof at $18,000 but no financing, who's the homeowner going to choose? You, because they can get started for $212 a month or none. And especially to everyone coming up, this will be relevant into Q1 when we get tax refunds. Many people are going to be using their tax refund to invest in their home. Why? Newsflash, if you haven't seen it, our economy is doing some funny things. And they're predicting some dangerous stuff going on. And interest rates are very high and home inventory is very low because people that purchase their home are stuck in their home because if they want to sell it and go buy a new home, their interest rate will double and their cost of living will double, assuming their mortgage cost. Which means, despite the fact that for many of us, we are freaking out about the economy, there's a lot playing in our interest because people that stay in their homes are doing what instead? Fixing their homes up, spending more money on their homes, have more equity in their house to pull from. So for us, those homeowners are going to be more inclined and have a stronger need to do their roofs. Okay. Now, as you see, and I see some great stuff in the chat I'll turn my attention to in a moment, we always start with the highest price as our price anchor. We minimize it, and then we minimize it again. I want you to think like you're the infomercial and not in a sleazy way. This stuff works for a reason. But wait, there's more. Order your Ginsu knife and get one for just $29.99. But if you call in the next 20 minutes, we're going to double your order and get 2. But wait, there's more. We're also going to throw in the Ginsu knife cookbook. And if you order in the next 20 minutes before this commercial is up, we are going to give you free rush shipping. But what happens, you're cracking up like that this shit, but it works because then you're like, it's a deal. It's a better deal. It's a better deal. It's a better deal. We need to think like that. Like it's $20,000, but wait, there's more. I can make it $212, but wait, there's more. I can get you started. You don't owe me a penny. Okay. You guys get the idea of why we minimize this? Minimize pricing, price anchor, monthly option 1, monthly option 2. Okay. Generally 3 ways to pay at minimum. What we want to do is get a yes, I want to buy from you, and then make it make sense, which is why when I know that getting back real quick to our trial close, Jason, you use different language than me, and I'm splitting hairs here. But the reason that I say if the investment makes sense, I don't want to say the word affordable because that's going to open up what they mean by affordable as cheap. When I say if the investment makes sense, my goal is to give them the option that makes sense for their budget. Okay. One could argue it, and I see you nodding your head. Don't change what's working. That's just my approach. Like my job is to help this make sense for you. And again, if it makes sense. So the other guy's 18,000, but I can make sure you don't pay a thing. And that's 0% payment for 12 months. So Mr. Homeowner, it's September. You're going to likely be getting a tax refund. And that tax refund is going to come when? Right? Maybe March, April. So you can get this thing paid for, 0 down, 0 payments for 12 months, put that chunk of change towards it, take care of it throughout this year. You're going to have no interest. Okay. That can often make more sense. I can get it done today, etc. All right. Now, asking for the business. Mr. Homeowner, do you have any questions for me? I know we covered a lot. They say no, move on. Does all this make sense? Yes. And then we can go in for the close. Are you comfortable moving forward? Or which option are you most comfortable with? Writing a check for $20,000, taking advantage of our financing offer at $212 a month, or 0 down, 0 payments for 12 months. It's a modified options close. Or great, the next step is pick which investment option you want to move forward with, and then we'll get you on the books. Okay. A next step close or an assumptive close. You're not asking for the business, you're telling them what happens. I go into this in greater detail in the closing masterclass. The reason that we ask these two questions, even though they're redundant, is if you say, do you have any questions for me? Many people will say no, but they still have questions. Then when you go in to ask for the business, they'll say, but wait, I still have questions. That's why we ask twice. Does all this make sense? Well, you'll often get actually, and then actually is usually followed by a buying motivated question that has to do with product timing or the installation. Okay. All right. Next, hypothetically, they're not ready. We got to think about it. We need to get more estimates. I got to talk to my wife. We need to isolate the objection. And this is a very key point for all salespeople, especially new salespeople. You need to isolate. So, Mr. Homeowner, if I'm understanding this right, you and your spouse are going to think about it. It sounds like the main thing you're thinking about is the investment options. Am I hearing that right? Yes. So all other things considered, is there any other reason you wouldn't choose us besides the investment option? No. Now I've isolated it. I know exactly what it is. All right. And if we remember, we go back to the beginning. There's 3 dominoes: trust, need, money. If they don't trust you, they likely didn't hear you out this whole time. The need piece, you're going to know, oh, it doesn't look like it's that bad. We're going to put off doing the roof. If you hear this objection, we're going to put it off till next year. We want to get a few more years out of the roof. You failed to create a need for them to take action now. Okay. Which there's a lot of compelling reasons to do so. We've covered this in other sessions, high level details. Prices of roofing are out of control. We are all seeing it in today's economy with rate increases that are quarterly. The price of roofing is going up by nearly double every 5 years. Okay. For those that don't believe me, go look at your rate increase notices from your suppliers quarterly. You will see between 6 and 12%. When you put that in a compound interest calculator and tack in your margin, that means that the price of roofing in 5 years will be double, which means in 1 year, if they wait, they could be paying $5,000 to $9,000 on an average roof just to get 1 more year out of the roof. That's how we create urgency. Okay. We need to isolate this objection and reattempt to close it at least 3 times. This right here is going to be the most challenging thing for people to do because it makes them uncomfortable to lean into these objections. And I will tell you, if that you change nothing else in your, nothing at all, if you throw out every single piece of advice I just gave in this presentation and only did this, your close rate would go up. Because most salespeople here, we got to think about it. And then you say, oh, great, thanks. I'm so glad I came out. I'm glad you liked me. Here's my business card. Call me anytime. I'm here to help. And they leave. So isolate the objection. Is it a trust issue, a need issue, or a money issue? And speak to that issue. This is where and I'm going to be honest with you. Actually, I don't know why I'd say that. I'm always freaking honest with you. This is my prediction of the future. Roofing sales used to be the Wild West, where many people could do it. Now, fewer people can. Why? Because sales is getting more sophisticated. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. If I'm selling an insurance claim, so my friends, by the way, in Texas with crazy high deductibles, when we talk about a sophisticated sale, imagine I'm presenting the homeowner with these options. Mr. Homeowner, I understand that the other guy said he's going to take $5,000 off, but what I can present to you is an option that isn't going to help them. Mark your shout outs coming up. If they have credit card debt, because with inflation, this is in a stat from Missouri, the average increase in living expenses for a household in Missouri went up $1,000 per month. Most people are carrying thousands of dollars of credit card debt, paying crazy amounts of interest. Mr. Homeowner, what if you could take this money and pay off your credit card? You're going to take that payment, which is $400 or $500 a month, and wipe it out. And I can get your roof financed for $212 a month. So we can take your $500 a month credit card debt bill, use these funds from the claim to pay it off. We're going to finance your roof. I can save you $300 a month. This is where we talk about a sophisticated sale. Mr. Homeowner, I understand the other guy said he could do it cheaper, but I can offer you 0 down, 0 payments for 12 months. I want to ask you, are you guys expecting a tax refund? Yes. Well, what if I could say you don't have to pay a penny and you get this roof done now before prices go up, because we'll likely have a rate increase between now and then, and it could cost you an extra $1,000 or $2 just to get to wait that long. And then you could pay the roof off with 0 interest using that credit, using your tax refund. This is the sophisticated sales. Okay. Now, that's why we want to isolate the objections. There's far more than just a talk track through it. Everything needs to be tailored to the customer situation. Now, the bonus here is the inside sales call follow-up. This is Mark Hurd's shout out. Mark Hurd does a great job at this. The inside sales team calls after the appointment, and he says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that we're the roofer you'd choose? Okay. If the homeowner says, let's say number 7, it's great. What would it take to move you to a 10? So again, if you have an inside sales team, have your inside sales team call for a quality assurance check after the appointment. And then, Mark, I'm going to call on you in just 1 sec so we can hit the summary and wrap, and then we'll turn to you. The summary is this: from start to finish, the key steps in the process. This isn't every step, but this is the key steps. 1, we need an appointment warm up. Okay. To proactively overcome those objections. 2, ask the right questions in your discovery. 3, proactively address the objections about estimates being apples to apples. Use price conditioning by telling them what prices they should expect to pay, and use HomeWise to show that to them. This can often remove the need to get multiple estimates. Next, we do a trial close where we isolate price if the investment makes sense, or if we can make this affordable. Is there any reason you wouldn't want to move forward with us? Then we're going to reveal our price using price anchoring in the 3 tiers. Then we're going to ask for the business. Do you have any questions for me so far? Does all this make sense? Are you comfortable moving forward, or which option works best for you? Or the next step is blank. Then we're going to isolate any objections that come up, attempt to overcome them 3 times. And then if we have an inside sales team and we don't one call close, we'll do the call follow-up. That will bring us to a wrap. Thank you all for being here. I will see you all very soon, and make it an awesome week. Ciao, ciao.
If you like this training and you want more on closing sales, jump into this very next video and I'll teach you what you need to change in your closing process in 2025 to 2028, because what consumers want is shifting.